Hi there, welcome to the Gutter Rankings channel, where we play for fun but we go for the knockout. In today's episode, we're still with the Dingo Dogs Eeveelutions team, and Espeon is getting ready to slay. Let's jump right in. I should also mention that this has been pre-recorded and my commentary is only what I was thinking at the time. I can honestly say I've never faced off against Diancie before, or Manaphy for that matter. They were banned in VGC and they were banned in ranked matches, so I have no idea what they do. However, I know now that as soon as Diancie Mega evolves, it switches its defensive stats for offensive stats, and it becomes so much easier to kill since it no longer has any defense. Now, I should have known about the magic bounce and the clear body considering the fact that it's literally a crystal. Diancie doesn't have any defense, and Espeon is able to take it out quite easily. Manaphy going for that Scald on Jolteon, that special defense has been brought off already, doing massive damage but is able to hang on. When Glaceon comes in, I know this Pokemon is really bulky, I've had it in the Ghost team before, and thus I wasn't about to have any of that Will-O-Wisp recover shenanigans going on, so immediately go for lowering that special defense and go for the knockout. Now I'm feeling pretty confident at this point, my opponent only having 2 Pokemon left. Of course, Ice Beam is enough there to take Jolteon out, but this gives me an opportunity to bring in another sweeper. I bring out Sylveon with Hyper Voice. Now Hyper Voice of course is a normal type attack, but with Pixelate it becomes a fairy type and it gets Stab. I didn't want Sylveon to take any unnecessary damage, and I went for the Psychic on the Glaceon. Normally what people did back in the day with the Glaceon, they would defend so that Speed Boost could activate so that they could outspeed on the next turn, which is still a good thing to do. Now going for the Psychic here, massive damage coming in, putting it in KO range for Sylveon, and this battle went pretty fast. These Eevees really impress me every day with how powerful they are in terms of attack, and how tactical you can be with them. They're really fun to play with. For the next battle, instead of going into the free play mode like I usually do, I challenged a passerby, and in this mode you're able to take all 6 your Pokemon, but I completely forgot and ended up taking only 4. On that note, it brings me to an important point. When you're having matches, try to always remain relaxed so that you can think about things clearly. As soon as you start panicking and getting stressed, it's very easy to make mistakes, and that can lose you games. I wanted to slow down his Lapras knowing that it's really bulky, however my opponent ends up switching into Simisage. And the thing about Simisage is he's really fast and his physical attack's really high, so that's really bad for my opponent. The Shadow Ball does massive damage to Delphox. Now Espeon does have naturally high special defense, so he took that much better. Of course, the Thunderbolt is enough to take out my opponent here, and I'm free to launch an attack onto the Simisage. Now I'm locked into Shadow Ball because of that choice specs, but it still does massive damage. RNG not in my opponent's favor here, as he's not able to move due to the paralysis. It's always hard to tell what Lucario does, because he can either be physically offensive or he can be special offensive. I switch into Umbreon knowing that he could take anything that comes his way. I don't want to lose Espeon, it is the strongest attacker in my team, so I want to preserve that so that I can sweep later on. The Flash Cannon going onto Umbreon, doing barely any damage there. And RNG again not in my opponent's favor. I do feel a bit bad for this. I don't know if it would have made such a massive difference. Now I started setting up here with the fake tears, still having forgotten that my opponent has 6 Pokemons, not 4. Earthquake able to do massive damage to Jolteon there, but he's so bulky he's able to survive. I can only guess that my opponent was running sort of a hybrid there. Charizard of course naturally very fast, so I want to slow that down as much as possible so that I can always move first. even without the sunlight, that would have been more than enough to take Jolteon out. RNG, not on my opponent's side, but I was protecting, so it didn't really make much of a difference in this particular turn. Psychic once again doing massive damage to that Mega Evolution, getting Umbreon's HP up, knowing that if anybody goes down in this game, as long as I've got Umbreon left, I'm still in a good position considering its move pool and its massive defensive stats. Now this does do a lot of damage to Umbreon, and I know that the Lucario is a bit of a problem there. When I saw my opponent use Fly, I can only imagine that this was the team he was using to play through the game. So he was only playing for fun, nothing serious going on here. Now in the sun, I think that Moonlight recovers 75% instead of 50%, so it's kind of working to my advantage here. Once again, RNG, not my opponent's favor, as his Pokemon can't move due to the paralysis. Hyper Voice with that crazy high special attack stat, able to get the knockout on both Pokemon. I was slowly starting to work on setting up Umbreon here, because I know I kind of started with a bit of a disadvantage, feeling much better now, but still wanting to preserve Umbreon just in case I need to. Now, I kind of assumed that he would go for the Sylveon, considering that Yveltal is really weak to it, so I wanted to protect it there. Now the Rock Smash coming out, there are of course a lot of better moves, but like I said, I think my opponent's only playing for fun. This is the team he probably uses to play through the game. So I could continue to set up on Umbreon. So when you're fighting people, HM moves are probably not the best to have, especially Fly, because you know when it's gonna land, so you can always protect and avoid all the damage that it would have done. I assumed that he was gonna go for the Sylveon, which is why I protected it. And it was a correct prediction, so that keeps me pretty healthy. Now Oblivion Wing, really powerful move, allows him to get a lot of HP back, and that move was such a nightmare back in the day, it could literally win you games. I wasn't too afraid of his Yveltal here, because I know there isn't really much it can do against Umbreon, so that's why I wanted to focus on taking out the Lapras first. I wanted to protect Sylveon there, just for the sake of it, but it fails and Sylveon goes down. However, I'm still in a good enough position to take my opponent out. Like I said, there's not really anything Yveltal can do against Umbreon. Umbreon can just dodge its attack, it can out-heal it, and it can take it down slowly and painfully with that foul play. Like I said earlier, my opponent was just playing for fun, and he was at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of experience. But yeah, I would have been on Sword of Shield if I could afford it, but can't. Any case, so as karma has it, my next battle is this exact situation but flipped. I wanted to share it with you guys simply because of the synergy in this guy's team and to walk you through what his thought process most likely was. Now this battle really didn't last very long. I was really not thinking clearly and perhaps a little bit underestimating the skill level of my opponent. He's bringing out Kyogre with the Rain, very strong special attacker. Landorus, of course, very strong physical attacker. The right course of action here for me would probably have been to do a Thunder Wave onto the Kyogre and to protect Sylveon. Now, look at the massive damage Water Spout does. This can only lead me to believe that my opponent has properly trained his Pokemon and is maxed out Kyogre's special attack. Now look at that damage of the Landorus. It takes his own Kyogre to less than 50% of his HP. Now my opponent is smart enough to know at this point if he wants to preserve Kyogre, he needs to switch it out. Of course, it cannot take another attack, neither from the Landorus or from any one of my Pokemon. Now Espeon of course cannot protect itself here because of the choice specs. The right course of action would have been to use Psychic instead of the Dazzling Gleam, because Psychic gets stabbed and it can do a bit more damage. Protecting on the Umbreon here, very questionable play on my side. I could have gone for either a double team or a foul play onto Landorus. Foul playing onto Landorus was many times a one-hit knockout anyway, simply because his defensive stat was not that high, but his attack stat was. Now, having lost Sylveon, the game is pretty much already over. It's kind of been over since the first turn, simply because my predictions were off by so much. Now, the rain in his team is vital because Mega Swampert and Ludicolo both have Swift Swim, which means their speed gets doubled in the rain. And Ludicolo has Fake Out. I just protected, I couldn't really protect again, and I pretty much can't do anything. It's like I said, it was pretty much over in the first turn already. But I wanted to share this match with you guys regardless, to let you see how good this guy's synergy was, so that you could perhaps learn from it. I mean, I learned a lot from this fight, and I would absolutely love to have a rematch. Finding players like this really makes me happy because you get to really practice, and you get to practice well. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll keep well. I hope you'll keep safe. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. I would really appreciate that, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!